player, you don't know that many major chords. We hang out and then you get bored, and you leave me here like I'm your landlord. You come back and say I'm sorry, boo, and I know you.
Hi, welcome back to Sabertooth Pottery. Today's video, we're going to be discussing pulling handles and attaching them to our pieces. If you're new to my channel and you're interested in tutorial videos, I try to post at least once or twice a week. And if you want to get notifications, go ahead and feel free to click like, subscribe, and little notification bell. Before we get started, I want to discuss what pulling a handle is. Generally, we take like a roll of clay. The bigger you want your handle, the bigger that roll of clay will be. So we're going to be pulling small handles for our mugs today. So we're going to make small rolls of clay. So make sure you have clay already set aside for your handles. And we don't want our clay to be leather hard. We want our clay, when we're pulling our handles, to be nice and soft and supple. So just fresh clay out of the bag. Set aside 4 rolls of clay because we're going to be making 4 handles for our mugs today. We call it pulling a handle because when you have your little roll, you're going to be holding it like this and it's going to be nice and wet. We're going to be gently pulling in this direction, and as we're doing that, it's going to be making our handle. So first things first, before we start, as usual, we're going to need our tools. So today we want something that we haven't discussed yet, and that is slip. And what slip is, when you're throwing a piece and your hands get all covered in clay and that soft mushy stuff, that's slip. You can collect that if you have like a little jar like this, when you scrape your hands off in the jar and the slip falls right into the jar. Or you can make your own slip. You can make a flat sheet of clay using a rolling pin, and you let that completely dry, and then you mash it up with, like I use a mortar and pestle. You can mash it up, and then you can grind it, and then it turns into powder. And then you put that powder in a container and you add water and mix it up, and then you have slip. So you're going to need your slip, and it's important that your slip is also the same kind of clay that the clay is that you threw your piece with. So this here is Laguna clay B mix, and that's what I threw my piece with. So whatever you threw your piece with, make sure that you have some slip set aside. We need our bucket full of water. We're gonna need lots of water for this. Our knife tool so that we can cut our handles to size. You're gonna need some kind of scoring tool. You can either use your needle tool, or what I have is this little guy here, and he's got like 2 little prongs. Let's see if you can see that. And that's perfect for scoring nice and quickly. Then you're gonna need some kind of like brush or applicator so you can get your slip onto your piece. So if you're ready and you have everything you need, let's go ahead and get started. So the first mug I want to pull a handle for is our double bubble mug. And this is a bigger mug, so it's going to use one of the bigger rolls. I sectioned out enough clay that I think I'm going to need for each handle for each of the mugs. And since this mug is the biggest one and I kind of want a bigger handle, I just put a bunch of extra clay on one of these rolls here. So it doesn't necessarily mean that my handle's going to end up that big, but I wanted extra just in case. So when I make these rolls here, I leave one end wider than the other because that's the end that I'm going to be holding while I'm pulling. So go ahead and grasp the bigger end in your non-dominant hand and get your hands wet, and then get the clay wet as well. So this is a little bit tricky to learn at first. Sometimes when you're pulling, you might pull too hard or squeeze too hard, and you will pull off the handle that you're working on. So just to show you first, I want you to take your thumb and your index finger, and this space in between here is where you're gonna be pulling. And you're barely even squeezing, you're just using that shape there to guide the clay down. And I literally just hold that shape, put my fingers around it, and pull the clay up. And I'm not even squeezing here, I'm just keeping this shape. So you do that over and over until you get it as long as you need. Just like that. So take it from the top. Kind of looks like you're milking a cow. Keep pulling down. And sometimes at the bottom you'll get these little lumps, and that means that you're not squeezing evenly as you're pulling. So these little bits at the bottom will come off. That's taking away from your progress. So try to pull evenly as you're pulling down. And then sometimes I like to flip it, because if you keep pulling on the same side, since your hands are not an even shape, one side's going to be a different shape than the other. So I like to turn it and flip it like that. And I want a kind of long, flat handle, so I'm only going to turn it 2 directions, and that's front and back. If I wanted like a more rounded, chunky handle, I would also pull the sides too. So keep this nice and wet like you would your clay piece on the wheel, and just keep using your hand like this right here. You don't even have to squeeze, you just get that shape and gently pull down. And since the clay is so soft and wet, it's going to pull it on its own. So I'm doing a combination of pulling down and pulling up on the clay. I'm keeping my hands wet too. And there we got just a basic handle. You can do shorter strokes at the top if it's a bit thicker there, but don't squeeze, because otherwise this is going to be really thin and you're going to have a lump right here. So there we have a pretty even handle. It's our first handle there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it over like this, so you already kind of get started that handle shape. And I'm going to put this thicker end on the end of my wooden surface here and let it hang. Kind of press it down. You don't want it to fall off. Make sure it's nice and well anchored. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the handle for the teacup. I'm going to do the same thing. Hold the thicker end, make the shape with my fingers here, get your hands and the clay nice and wet, and rotate back and forth to make sure you get it nice and even. And just pull a nice thin handle, because it's our teacup, so we don't want a big, thick, chunky handle like we would on a mug. Although this is a mug, it's just in the shape of a teacup. And that's what happens if you pull unevenly and too hard. I still do it too. Surface area to squeeze. Okay, so for this one, I want it to be a little bit more narrow, so I'm actually going to go down the sides as well with that same shape with my fingers. So this will make the handle less flat but more narrow than our double bubble mug handle. This one I'm kind of doing the same thing here. I'm anchoring it in place, but I'm not going to have them hanging off the edge because I want more of a round shape for this guy. So what happens when they're drying is that they'll kind of dry with these shapes. Okay, so I took off a little bit of clay from that roll because for this cup, I actually kind of want to do like a circular handle right here. And I don't actually need that much, but I do want it to be sturdy because this is a little, it's a slightly bigger mug, so it's a bit heavier than like a small little handle or a small little mug. So I'm going to pull another small narrow handle, not as small as the teacup one. Keep your hands and the roll nice and wet, and just go like you're milking a cow. It's the best way I can describe it. And remember, you don't have to squeeze. You can just keep your hand relaxed like this, and this space in between is literally enough to get the shape that you need. As I'm pulling down, this finger comes in a little bit. I don't know why, but I just do that. You don't have to keep your hand like this shape. When I'm pulling down, I do this. that's about enough. I don't want it to get too thin. And that's going to be enough for our kind of circular handle there. So I'm going to go ahead and anchor this guy too. And I'm going to take the other half of what I had for our cone-shaped mug and use that and do the same thing I did with the other three. If I accidentally squeeze too hard in one spot, or I have a spot that's bigger than the other, you can gently work that spot a little bit more, but not too much, because otherwise you're going to have an irregular shape. Clean up my hands and clean up my station. And there we have our handles. They actually dry really quickly. I'm going to put them outside where it's warm and it's dry and the wind can blow on them, and they will get pretty leather hard rather quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to apply them to our mugs. Okay, so here we have each of our mugs, and I have them paired with their handles. These I only left outside for 20 minutes, and they're already like practically leather hard. I left them a little bit softer than leather hard, so they're a little bit easier to work with if I need to bend them for whatever reason. If they're too leather hard, sometimes they crack. So it really depends on your preference. If you're really comfortable and used to what you're doing, you can just stick them on leather hard and not have to worry about anything. So let's go ahead and start applying our handles to our mugs. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and measure how much I need for his handle. That's way too much, unless you have giant hands. So I'm gonna try to keep the thicker part of it, and I'm gonna take my knife tool, and I'm just gonna clean this edge up here. When you are cutting your handle, you wanna remember that this edge is on your piece, so you wanna keep that side flat. Unlike this one where I accidentally did the opposite direction, that's not gonna go on. Like, see what I'm saying? It needs to be cut vertically.
So I'm just going to go in and clean that up real quick, and I'm going to align it, make sure it's where I want it, and make sure it fits nicely on the piece.
How does that look to you guys? Does that look good or too big? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and use our needle tool to kind of mark where we need to score. And we're gonna score that area. So one important thing to notice before you score is that because we are spinning counterclockwise, at least that's how we do it here in the United States. If you're somewhere else in the world, or if you're a lefty and you spin clockwise, unless you spin clockwise, your piece, when it's fired, it slightly kind of tries to twist back to its original shape. And so it's gonna slightly twist to the right. So to compensate for that, you wanna slightly put your bottom part to the left. And I'll show you in a second, so that makes a little more sense. Okay, so I got my little scored bits here. And I just want to show you what I'm talking about. I know that my camera films in mirror. I still have to figure out why it does that. But when this piece is fired, it's gonna try to twist this direction. So this bottom piece is going to line up with the top piece here. So we always cut slightly we always score slightly to the left. And then we score our handle. We take our slip and our brush. And I always like to add a little bit of slip to both pieces. Slap it in there so it gets in all the little grooves. And I put the top piece on first and kind of just shimmy it back and forth to push all those little air bubbles out. And I'm also pushing inwards as I'm shimmying it back and forth. Gently push with my thumb. And then I'm going to do the same with the bottom here.
also make sure that when you're doing this, you're holding the inside of the piece too, because if you're pushing too hard, you're going to warp your piece.
I'm just gonna push down gently with my thumb here, like so, with both pieces. Gently. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna clean it up in a second. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on my next piece. All right, so I'm gonna measure this guy too. That's much too big. I'm gonna get it in a round shape, and that way I'm like, I got it nice where I need it to be. And then I'm gonna mark it where I want to score. For the handle. And your slip. And apply your hand. Alright, so I'm gonna do the same with the other guys, and I'm gonna hyperlapse those. So, because I think by now you kind of got an idea of what to do. So I'm just going to do the other guys real quick. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go back and clean up the first ones. I'm just using the brush here to smooth out that slip and kind of blend. Where's my sponge? And blend the handle into the piece. And you can use your sponge to do that too. So get a nice idea of how smooth that is. I'm going to do that to all of them. Get nice and smooth now. So it doesn't look like they're separate. They're like actually part of the piece. I'm gonna do that to all of them. As you're doing this, you can kind of shape them a little bit too if they lose their shape while you're rubbing, cleaning them up.
As I was doing the teacup, I was kind of having a hard time getting the shape that I wanted, so I kept pushing it around, and eventually I ended up having to cut off a piece. And you can do that when you are working with your handles. You can do whatever you need to get to the desired shape that you're looking for.
So here we have our beautiful mugs with their beautiful handles. Good job, everybody. If you got this far and you have 4 mugs and you have your 4 handles, and even if you just have 1 mug, I'm really proud of you. I'm glad you stuck with me this whole time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy your beautiful mugs. We will be eventually going over how to fire these guys, and their first fire is what we will call a bisque fire, and then we will glaze. But for now, this is what we have. Let them get completely dry. Once they're completely dry, that is called bone dry. That is the final stage before you want to bisque fire your piece. And then once it is bone dry, be very careful to not pick up your piece like this, because at this stage, when they are bone dry, they are very brittle and you will snap off the side there. So you want to handle your things with care once they are bone dry. So, yay, here we are with our 4 beautiful mugs. Good job, guys. Are you excited you got this far? If you've been keeping up with the tutorials from the beginning, from wedging clay all the way until now, and you're just beginning pottery, I hope that these tutorial videos have helped you out. I feel like sometimes I talk a little fast and I skip over some things, so again, as always, if I have missed anything or you feel like you have questions, feel free to comment. If you're just watching these videos just because you like watching pottery videos, that's great too. And I want to thank you for watching. I know this kind of sounds like I'm closing up and that I'm done here, but I'm actually not. Everything that I've done up until this point is just the beginning stuff. I'm still going to be uploading videos every couple of days. If you have gotten to this point and you are a beginner and you feel like even though you've watched all these tutorial videos and you've seen a lot of tutorial videos on how to work with pottery online, but you still don't feel confident enough, please watch them again. Please ask questions. I love to answer. I love to teach. And I also want to give you a little bit of a word of encouragement. If you have, say you just took your first semester at a college on pottery and you feel like by the end of it you haven't learned much or you haven't gotten much done, I just want to say, look at this chonk. This was one of my first cylinders. It's not even 6 inches tall. And the requirement for that course is to have at least 6 6-inch cylinders by the end of the semester. Guess what? Not a single one of mine was 6 inches tall. However, this is still one of my favorites. Look at that thing. I love it. It's so ugly. It's my little chonk. In fact, it took me 2 semesters to actually learn how to throw a cylinder. By the end of the 2nd semester, I had almost no idea what I was doing. But by the time I figured out how to throw cylinders, I was so excited. I just kept going every day. I did everything. I was throwing teapots by the end of that semester, and I had 13 teapots, I remember, at the end of my 2nd semester of pottery. That was so awesome. So, if you feel kind of scared or not sure yet, I promise you, your best friend is perseverance. And you just gotta keep doing it. You just gotta keep practicing. And even if you think this isn't for you, which I did in the beginning, it's, maybe it's not for everybody, but you can do it. And I bet you will feel by the time that you're done with this, it's for you too. And I hope that's the case, because I love pottery, I love teaching pottery, and I love putting the knowledge that I have on how to work with clay out there. So please stay tuned to my channel and keep watching my tutorial videos and my hyperlapse videos on just throwing whatever I feel like that day. And if you feel like it, click like, subscribe, and the little notification button, or not. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
Okay. Give me some love. Ma'am? Miss? Excuse me? Yeah, no, don't go in there.
Can I clip it to my hair?
Yes.
It's a new accessory. Oh, it's not gonna stay. Baller.
I'll wait for you to be quiet, Stella. Thanks. Stella! Are you stuck? She might be stuck. Ding ding! That's the I'm in trouble meow and I know it. She's stuck. If you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, wait, what was that? Bye! Get out of here!
Either use your noodle tool. Maybe I'm just hungry for noodles. You can do just a little short strokes. There's really no way of doing this without making it look dirty.